Hi everyone, welcome to BBBOTS, and today we have our special guest, Brooke. Thanks for joining us today, Brooke. How have you been? Because obviously with the COVID-19 in general, how has that been for you?
Do you know what? Me and the group, because me and the guys from my series are still in the group chat, and we said the best way to describe if someone asks you what's it like in the house, we can just say it's lockdown. Yes. Because that's exactly what it's exactly the same. Like, it's like we've been in training. So if I hadn't been in Big Brother, I don't even think it would have been this easy. But I'm so used to it. Like, obviously you get used to it, don't you, being in just one place. Yeah. But at least we have our phones. So, you know.
Well, I think we asked a lot of the housemates we've had on here about that, and you know, what do you prefer, being in the Big Brother house or, you know, going through this COVID-19?
I think that this, obviously the pandemic aside, because I don't mean to be disrespectful, but this feels kind of a lot easier in respects of having your phone, knowing the time, that kind of thing, that kind of things that feel like a basic human right of knowing that kind of thing. That's what gets stripped away from you in the house, and I think that's what is the thing that stresses you out the most. Is not having access to that information and what's happening elsewhere. So we're very lucky to be in a generation where we have access to that on Twitter and stuff. Like, if we want to know what's going on, we always have access to that. So I think that makes us feel a lot luckier in quarantine than going in the Big Brother house.
Thank you. Anyone else got any questions?
So I feel like changed it all when you've been out.
Don't be shy.
Sorry, go ahead, Debbie. I feel like changed it all since you've come out.
What was that, sorry?
Yeah, that's right. I feel like changed it all since you've come out of the Big Brother house over the years.
So I think the way I handle social situations is probably the thing that's changed the most, because being in the house, you think you'll be a particular way. I think everyone has an idea of themselves before going into the house of how they're going to be. But when you're put into a situation with 16 strangers, which is what it was in obviously my year, you learn so much more about yourself than you ever think you would on the outside. So in terms of my life, I've got a lot more confident in myself, and I think that's the reason I went on there in the first place, was to change my own life and to change my own perspective of myself. So in that way, 100%.
You're looking great still.
What you do, yeah.
I'm a little bit tipsy right now, but normally I'm not bad, I promise.
So, Brooke, you went on the last series of Big Brother. Did that affect anything, like, going in? Did you think maybe, did it play on your mind or anything, knowing that you was going into the last series of Big Brother?
They didn't tell us. So the first we got told that it was the last series. So between, obviously, exiting the house, walking down the stairs, doing your exit video, and you have your talk with Emma Willis. So in the time before meeting Emma Willis to walking down the stairs is the ad break. And that's when they said, by the way, this is the last ever series. She's probably going to mention that, just so you know. And that was the first I heard about it. So it was like going through it on my own. Because obviously I was evicted at the same time as Sean, but I was evicted first. So I didn't have anyone to talk to about that. The first thing I wanted to do was like tell Zoe. I knew the look on Zoe's face would be the fucking funniest. Like, sorry, I'm allowed to swear.
Of course.
I knew that would be the funniest part, was Zoe's face, and Cameron as well loved it, like the real ones who had watched every single series, because obviously I didn't watch every single series, I'd watched a few, but yeah,
I mean, for me, I want to take it back, that mince moment. Do you remember the mince?
Do you know what? At the time, at the time in the house, the mince, it was like, I thought it was just a funny little blip, but when I got out, since I've come out, that's all anyone will ask me about is the mince. How did I feel when that was happening? Like, it's so funny now to watch that back.
It was funny for us because it was just too funny, and
he's hilarious.
Yeah, carry on.
I love like Lewis. If I was watching Lewis G, I would have absolutely loved him. Like, I can see how we were all saying like his character was incredible, but realistically, if he was a guy in your shared house at uni, for example, it's a completely different experience.
And do you know what? I actually think that's how we all felt. I thought he was amazing to watch, but we all knew being in there with him would just be a complete different experience of what we're actually watching.
And they deliberately put him in last as well. Like they waited till we were all settled, looking around at each other, because you look around each other, you're sizing each other up, you're like, okay, so this is the house. And then they put Lewis G in, and then it was like, oh, fuck.
When Lewis G left, like a few weeks later, you had another housemate, and it's going to sound really bad, but I've actually forgot his name. But he was a bit, what was his name?
Hussein.
Yes, that's it.
He was
And
another
like, he was like a very similar type of Lewis G from what we saw, who was actually quite like worse to live with, Lewis or...
I think Hussein was probably worse to live with, simply because we'd entered with Lewis G. So to him, he'd made that kind of initial bond of everyone's terrified on the first day, as much as everyone likes to pretend they aren't. Everyone's terrified. So when you've had that initial feeling with someone, which we would have had with Lewis G, we had that like family bond that you get from the original housemates. And as much as we welcomed Hussein, like I don't think he ever felt that to us, so we couldn't really feel it back.
What is it like, that moment when you said you walked in, you're sizing people up, and you're looking around, you're like, okay, this is the house, this is my, these are my housemates for the next however many weeks. I mean, what's running through your mind at that moment in time when you're looking around all your faces?
It's like the first day of school, when you're thinking in your head, like, who could I be friends with? Who could I find a common interest with? And you're looking for any little thing they say. And obviously, as most adults will know, when you meet someone you don't know, the thing you can kind of bond over is alcohol. So the fact that it was there, it was always like, how do you have your drinks? Like that's how we got to know each other, and like how people were going to respond to us, how they would respond to other things, like the jokes they made. Because that first night, everyone's on their best behaviour. It's like the first night of like any night out, everyone's being so well behaved.
I remember.
But yeah,
sorry, go on.
Carry on.
I remember on your first night, you had that, what was it called? The big coin. And you had them all like dropping down. And you actually saw straight away the actual, like the game had already kicked in. Did you actually feel that from the other housemates, that you was already in competition?
Do you know what? Even that's probably what, because I didn't watch all of them back, but the first episode is one I want to watch back if I want to watch it again, because you can even see, if you look closely, I'm the only one who doesn't stand up. Everyone else straight away like rushes up, and I didn't, and that says a lot about how I handled every other task. And even in my best bits, there was a special bit that literally talks about the fact that I hadn't gone for a single coin, because if that's not how your mind works, then it's just, I wanted to get pissed and like get to know people. I couldn't be asked to crawl around on the floor.
Do you know what I found hilarious about that? All the coins are coming down, and then Sean turns around to see there's more coins coming down, and she just takes herself away, and she's just collecting all the coins.
In her dress?
And then they all clock onto it, in that dress. And then finally they all clock onto it, and they're all like running over, and you could actually see it's like full on started already, the actual game.
Do you know what? That's actually the first time that I thought I liked Sean, because she came up to me and she was like, babe, you can get so much more over here. And I was like, this is going to be my friend in the house. And that's actually probably one of the first, like, because obviously being gay, I mostly have gay friends, so I'm used to not getting on with straight girls as well. And from seeing Sean, she's beautiful, she's got tattoos, and since coming out, I've seen a lot of people have said she's like similar in some ways to me, especially in the show. So coming in, I thought, God, we're going to argue, but straight away, she's probably the one I bonded with first.
And you know what, I think overall that's like what we get from Big Brother, because they put in such different housemates who aren't your typical like stereotypes, or you think something of them when you first see them, but then you realise like they're completely different to like what you first think.
Yeah, exactly. And sorry, did that go off then?
You're
but
right.
yeah, I completely agree. Like the people that you would look at in the room on the first day and think they're going to be my friend, by literally day 3, you're already like, God, how could I think that we would get on? Because you can never, it's the definition of judging a book by its cover, which is you're watching people judge the book by their cover and listening to what they say. And as the days go on, you're watching them get to know the actual person. And you could never put together some of the pairs that make best friends in the house, which is what I like.
Yeah, it's great to see those friendships develop in all the Big Brother seasons, actually, and just see how those romances you know, blossom, and the girlfriend's, you know, friendship blossom, and and then you can see how it progresses throughout the whole show. And it is the most unlikely characters sometimes do get together, which is really interesting to watch develop in front of your eyes as a viewer anyway. So
yeah, I completely agree. That's what I really enjoyed about it, because I thought going in there I had no idea what kind of friends, or if I would even make friends, because no one knows about themselves. You can again, as I said, have an idea, but until you're put in that situation, you have no idea how many friends you're going to make or how you're going to be as a person.
Did you feel like when you're in the house, you were like watching it as, did you feel like you were like watching it as a viewer almost?
Yeah.
When you're in the house?
Do you know what I said? I said this is one of the parts where I felt the luckiest, because I hadn't watched very many episodes before, because I don't know, I didn't grow up watching TV, but Big Brother was one of the original shows I used to watch. But because I hadn't watched it recently, I had nothing to really compare. So Cameron, for example, because he watched it so much, he was always the one we'd go to if Big Brother threw like a wrench in something. He's always the one we'd go to go over, like, what do you think's happening? What do you think's going on? Because he'd always have a really good idea of what he thought was going on. But when you haven't watched it very much, I didn't have a fucking clue half the time. I had no idea what was going on. When like zombies started taking over the place, like, I was like, is this part of it? I had no idea what was included. Like I didn't even know.
Big Brother likes to play with your mind, doesn't it? It likes to play with your mind. And I guess, like, Cameron as well, was he looked at as a competition, because he knew Big Brother quite well.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering whether, as the housemates being inside, do you think like some people probably looked at him as though, oh, he's gonna be the favourite and all the way.
I think we all probably, literally, I remember the first day Cameron came in, he was wearing his little suit. I remember looking across the table at him and thinking, people are gonna fucking love him, just because. And that the only reason for that is because he was so like sweet and naive, but also he's so intelligent. He's someone that you could never get bored of a conversation with. If you were left in a room with him, you could find something to talk about, because he has so much intelligence and he's got depth, he's got wisdom. So I think in that way we all knew he'd be a favorite, but simply in the way that, like, I saw it too, he would have been one of my favorites, and I think we all agreed on that.
And also in your series, you actually had a few housemates removed. Did you actually know when they announced why they were removed, or was it the case of you was all just guessing it if you wasn't there? Like, because one of them was removed really early on, wasn't she? Like within the first few days or something.
So yeah, Ellis was removed.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was 16 hours. It was the next day. We had no idea. Like we didn't get told. We got called in together to sit around the dining room table and just explain, obviously, that she'd been removed, and that was it. And then for the rest of the like 53 days, we just called it the Ellis Gate, because we had no idea where she'd gone, and we had all these conspiracy theories that we talk about, but in general we had no idea why she'd been removed.
So the first time you found out about that, was it when you actually left the house?
The first time we'd found out the real reason why she wasn't there would have been and that's the first question that every single one of them, because obviously I was at the final, so every single one of them, like Zoe, Akia, and everyone coming out, all they said was, what happened to Ellis? That's the first thing, because that's all we'd spoken about. Was everyone who got evicted, we'd look at each other and we'd go, they know what happened to Ellis.
Remind me, what did happen to Ellis?
There was some tweets or something, was there?
Yeah, just tweets from years prior. Yeah,
that's right, I remember.
Yes, so nothing that she'd done in the house.
Yeah.
Because we don't get told much either as viewers. They just make an announcement saying, some things happened and we've had to remove them from the house. There's nothing. It's all sort of swept under the table, and nothing in the press. It's nothing really talked. It's once a housemate's left, they're just not talked about again.
And I think that's what makes it harder, because then everyone's guessing, and I think everyone assumes things as well, especially with Lewis F. Like there was a lot of assumptions, and when I came out and kind of went on Twitter, and when I was going on like nights out, people were coming up to me and asking the weirdest things that they'd like heard about why he was removed. And trying to kind of not. I never really like to fully explain it because I think that's their business if they want it announced or not. But just kind of trying to explain it. And I saw a lot of people thought that I was the reason for Lewis F's removal. That was probably one of the main things that I saw in regards to like our friendship. But no,
I remember reading the reason about them tweets at the time, and I was thinking at the time the process, I know it's quite lengthy, isn't it, for you to actually get into the house?
Yeah.
So you would have thought that they would have found all that out before actually putting them into the house and going through all of that.
Yeah, I think you probably it's more so like viewers that will go into like more in depth into your history once you're already on the TV, because that's kind of where the tweets from Ellis came from. But the reason for Lewis F's removal was obviously something that happened in the house as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you deal with like, because obviously your Big Brother was the last one, wasn't it? The one that you did was the last one, and coming out, and then hearing this, like people talking about you, or how do you deal with that media or people making perception of what they think of you, and
I think
they think they know you because what they've seen on Big Brother.
Yeah, it's actually quite funny because when Nikki Graham came into our series, she sat around the table with us and she said, look around at each other because you're the only people that are ever going to understand how this feels. You and other people who have been in the series before you are the only people who will ever get this feeling. So if you ever want to open up about it and how you felt, you need to speak to people from the series. And that's kind of exactly how I felt, because coming out, no one gets it. When people would come up to me and say things like, why did you do this, or why did they respond like this, I think you can never ask that question unless you've been in that situation where you're cut off from everything for that amount of time. Your decisions are even sometimes questionable to yourself. Like, I'll watch that back and I'll think like, why did I respond like that, or why didn't I say something? But you can never judge how someone responds when they're in a situation that you'll never ever be in terms of like a lack of food and stuff like that, just a lack of like friendship, or like, and knowing the time and your like body clock and stuff.
How did your actual Big Brother journey start? Like how did what was your audition process like? How long did it take you to go through it? Was it quite quick? Did you get selected quite quickly early on? What was it like for you?
So I never thought about going on it before because I don't know, I would never think of it. But then I got a message from from one of the scouts saying to send in a 2-minute video just to apply, and I thought like that could be fun, because I know there'd never been any kind of there's not been many like lesbian examples of different kinds of people on there. That there's been gay girls on there before, but not enough. Do you know what I mean? Not enough to really understand. So I thought that's what I spoke about in my 2-minute video for my audition. I spoke about Buddhism, which is obviously something I was raised on, and then being gay and the fact that I could speak about that in a way that hadn't really been spoken about on TV. And then I got called in to my audition. I think there was like 2 processes, which were really interesting, because they put you in a group of 13 in your audition, and you have to go through different like tasks together and see how you respond. And I'm quite a quiet, not quiet, but on the fence kind of, I don't really argue. So I thought when I was watching all these people argue in these debates over these tasks, I was thinking, I'm not going to get on this show because I'm not like them. I'm not like this. I'm not shouty. But I think then one of the women said to me later on, one of the like managers or something, she said, how Big Brother works is it's a jigsaw of people. So everyone fits in different ways. No one's the same. They'll bring something else. And then it made sense to me. They need someone who's going to do everything.
Yeah. That's what I was going to ask you, though, because I knew that you're quite a spiritual person, and but you've just answered there, because I just wanted to find out how that experience was like for you. Because being spiritual, you like your own space, you like some quiet moments, and because there it's quite, quite close, you're sort of like in a small little house together, So how was that like for you? I mean, how did you manage to get time to your own to sort of like, just
I think when the way that I've always like practiced is mindfulness, living in the moment, being present, and not letting things stress you out, being able to think things through instead of having an immediate reaction. So instead of internalizing something someone says to you straight away, I'll always try and think it through. And I think that was what saved me during the time I was there, was being able to think, is it true, is it kind, is it necessary? And they're the three things that I used before responding to anything.
You know, I try and use that as well, but when you're in the house, everything's so magnified and emotions are a lot more intense. Did you find the practice was the same as how it is on the outside, or was it a bit harder, or was it you were so used to it? Like, how did you find there was a bit of a difference with the practice?
It's like
on the inside of the house?
Every emotion that you have normally is magnified times about 1,000. Sorry about him. every emotion you have is magnified times 1,000 whilst you're in there. So again, it was difficult to kind of deal with things in the same way as I would before, but it was just about slowing it down more and being able to do it that way.
What's one of your standout moments for your series?
Pardon?
What was one of your standout moments being in the house?
Like enjoyable or memorable?
Like memorable, enjoyable, not so enjoyable, something that really stuck with you that you always reflect on.
I think there was a moment, I don't even, some moments that I remember, I don't know if they got aired, because I'll say to my friends, do you remember when this happened? And they don't, so I don't know if it was on TV, but Tomas walked into the pool at one point. He did this whole, like, all of us were there, because it was rare, we were all in the same room, all in the same mood, all in a good mood, all awake, but there was this one night where we were all just sat with our feet in the pool, and Tomas did this, like, pool dance, and it was like the moon was up, we'd all had a bit to drink, and we like were fully all together and all present. But I think it's all the times we were all together rather than separating and going off and having our deep conversations together. Like, I liked being all together.
So, you know, when people got evicted or people got removed, who was the one person who left where you really felt it a bit more than when other people had left?
I think we would probably all agree that when Isaac left, that was really devastating, because I feel like he was such a big presence with us in the house. He was the one every single one of us would go to feel better. And he was just a guy you could go to. Like, he was always there. He was such a good hugger, such a good cuddler, and he was in the bed next to me as well. So the fact he left after such a small amount of time, I loved his presence and I got used to it. So it was like a safety blanket had gone. Like, at night time, he'd always, like, he wore this frog eye mask, and like not waking up next to this frog eye mask was like the saddest thing.
Did you find nominations hard when you had to go in and nominate people?
Yeah, they're the worst, because it's like, the only way that I try and describe it now is picture like your closest friends that you have right now in your life, and now picture someone asking you for 45 minutes why you don't like them, and it would feel impossible. But then if you have no other choice, it's say something you don't like about them or leave this room. That was kind of what nominations started to feel like, because you had nothing to say about people, so you were really digging for things that you just you had to find a reason. So it really got to the depth of, like, and towards the end, especially when you're so close to everyone, you have to kind of get petty, which is really hard when they're your best friends of this time. They've been there for you for like 50 days. For me, for example, for 50 days, they'd been the only people I had. So it's impossible to choose anyone. And I know I used to watch it and see people crying over nominations, and you'd never understand how that felt. But unless you've been there and you've had to say that, that's what's hard.
Do they make you like stick it out in the chair and give like a really, really detailed, in-depth answer before they let you go? Or do they keep saying, that's not good enough? Do they really like hound you into telling you into that answer? Is that how
exactly
it works?
Yeah, and then it'll be, and even if you'd nominate someone once, you'd say, because I know, for example, me, I'd say, I'd say someone's name and my reason wouldn't be good enough. So I'd have to then, because my reason wasn't good enough, they'd say, choose someone else or find a better reason.
Yeah.
So you either have to dig really, really far down. Sorry, I'm just trying to find a charger. You either have to dig really, really far down or come up with a better reason for them. So that was one of the hardest parts also.
I can imagine. I guess you have to set yourself up in advance to know what you're going to say in nominations. And then if they don't go the way that you think they're going to go, and then you have to completely rethink your whole kind of approach. But I can imagine how.
Yeah, because you'll have in your head when we're sitting in the room initially, we'll kind of be thinking on our heads, because nomination day is always the worst because we don't have time to do anything else. We're just taken into that room and we'll sit there for like 4 hours. And in them 4 hours, all 12 of us, or 16 of us, sorry, are all sat in the same room looking at each other thinking, who's going to choose me? And you're all kind of avoiding eye contact and you don't want them to think you've chosen them. And when you get back in, you're like, you don't want to look at the person you've nominated because you don't want to feel like a bitch, but you don't want to avoid eye contact.
Yeah, make it obvious.
Yeah, exactly. That's hard.
Yeah.
So you said that you're all in a WhatsApp group. Is there anyone that you've actually stayed in contact with, like more on a personal level, that you've actually become really close friends with?
So the people that I've personally gone to see, Zoe, I've gone to see her and I've met her son and I've met all her best friends. She's met my family. Like that's an incredibly close bond, and we'll always be there for each other. Sean, also, I've met her son, and we've had some like crazy times together.
Do you know what I really liked yours and Sean's friendship? Because you could, like, that was like Big Brother, you have friendships, but yours, it was like you said earlier on, like you didn't expect it and stuff, but I just think it stood out as like a genuine friendship.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and yeah, she's just an example of someone that, like, on the outside I would have probably never even spoken to, because she's like so beautiful, it's intimidating, which I know is so like anti-feminist of me in so many ways, but it would have just felt like that. But being in that house with her and getting to know her as a person and kind of what she stands for and her work ethic and the way she is with her son, like I met her for who she really is, and yeah, I love Sean.
I think for me, when you came out, I remember that interview you had with Emma, and you were kind of like, what, sort of like going, oh my God, there's people, you know, there's people, and then Emma was going, you know, but you have people in there. So yeah, but not this amount of people. Like, you was like in shock, you know. It was quite weird, sort of the way, you know, because we forget that you're in that house, you don't see anyone else except the people that you see in there, and so it must be very, very strange. And so to look at you like that, you were like, oh, it's really weird. It's like,
I know. I can't even watch that like interview back because do you know what, actually once when I was really hungover and I was at my friend's house, I woke up to the sound.
Yo, sorry I'm late, guys, man.
You're so late.
Sorry, man. Even by my standards, this is embarrassing. Sorry, man. I was just chatting away, man. Just chatting away. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all right. Sorry,
that's okay. No, it's fine.
You lot can all slap me. You can all give me one open palm slap on the arm, not the face. I don't have the looks anymore to spare, so just on the arm, please.
You call this, right?
Yeah, sorry. You know what I mean? Please, so, madam. I don't want to holla. How is everybody? You know what I mean? I've just rolled into your show and
I know,
like a tornado.
I know. As you do. As you know, Brooke. We've got Brooke here, Victor.
Brooke.
From the most recent Big Brother.
Where you at, Brooke? Oh, what's going on, Brooke?
Yeah.
What you saying, Brooke?
Hi.
Good, yeah. I see you, man. What's popping?
I'm good.
We all good? I've had 1 or 2 rare nephews tonight, so all right. I'm just nice and chill.
We've just been talking to Brooke, Victor, talking about, you know, the experience being in a house, and obviously you two, probably very different because, you know, Victor, you go way back and Brooke is most recent. So we've just been talking about, you know, how it's like being in a house, and I mean your experience.
Right. Can you say some of that again, because I just took my headphones out.
Right.
And yeah, now okay, I'm good. Go on.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm literally in my friend's like supply room. It's mad. downstairs playing like blackjack. Sorry, go on.
All right, no.
Me and Brooke. You were talking about Brooke's experience, right? Sorry.
Yeah, well, Brooke has been sharing some obviously about being in the house, talking to us about being in the house, and so we've just been asking her some questions about how it's like for like nominations. And
I've got to go, guys.
Thank you, Brooke.
Sorry,
Thanks,
guys.
Thanks, Brooke.
Thank you, Brooke.
Bye, Brooke.
Bye, Brooke. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Brooke. Yeah.
Brooke left.
Yeah. Well,
So now it's all about
Vic.
Victor.
Then there was
now
Vic.
it's all about Victor.
Somehow I feel like it was always meant to be that way.
Oh, come on.
So you've not changed one little bit.
Oh, why? Why should I? I'm too old for all that now.
Exactly.
I'm too old for
Don't
that.
ever change.
Thank you very much. You know what I mean? I accept that I'm a douchebag, and I just go with it.
Oh, but you're a lovely douchebag, though.
And I think that's what made you
so.
such an iconic housemate as well.
I was all right. I like to think
And
I was
also,
okay.
you was the first housemate who actually went in, especially in like your first time you went in, and you was like, yeah, this is my game plan and this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And we didn't actually have that before at all.
Mm.
And I
Yeah.
think when we was watching it as viewers, we loved playing along with it as well.
Yeah, didn't win though, did I? You know, you know what I mean?
You did love, but you done quite well with it.
Yeah. But I think
You know what I mean?
we've said that
Scooby Doo,
before on here.
Scooby Doo came at the end and pulled off the mask, and it was me. You know what I mean?
But we've said it here before, Victor, that when you're outspoken, you're more likely to be evicted quite early on because you're outspoken, and you're more or less like the target to be up for nomination and also to be evicted. So that would explain why. But you did make a good housemate, because at the end of the day, everyone that's watching the show, they want to see things happening. They don't want people just sitting around and doing nothing. So you contributed quite a lot to Big Brother.
Yeah, I mean, also, I'm a cheating ass bastard. So that came into effect. I went in there. I knew I had to cheat to survive, because people usually think I'm a dick. That's the honest truth. Like, since I was young, I walk into a room, everyone thinks, who's that jerk? I don't know what it is about me. I don't know. Maybe that perhaps it's the Lynx effect gone wrong, or like one of my sisters used to say that I'm like bug spray for girls. Do you know what I mean? That kind of thing. Like, that's one of my sisters say. But like with people.
Yeah.
So I realised I have to be able to survive a certain amount of time for people to realise, oh, okay, he's actually all right. You know what I mean? To do that, I had to cheat and manipulate people. So I suppose it's kind of an oxymoron.
But you say you cheated, but if anything, I actually think you was the most honest one, because you went in and you was the first one to actually say, like, this is a game and I'm playing a game.
Yeah.
And I actually think if you went in later years on Channel 5, by then everyone was loving the villain type characters. And I think if you were in Channel 5 years, you probably would have stayed in there a lot more longer than you did. Like in Channel 4, you still did get quite far through, but I think with Channel 5, it would have been the case of getting it to the final.
Yeah, I mean, that being said, I probably should have got to the final on my one. If I hadn't had too many glasses of wine, I probably would have. I'd have kept my mouth shut. I would have ducked the fight with Schultz. I would have stayed on the path. But too much of Vic came out. We're at the wedding. Eric Clapton's playing. Jason's there laughing. I'm doing my dance. Shell comes in. Or she'll ask me a question, and in my head I said, "Don't answer," but I did answer, and everything went downhill from there. You know what I mean? But that's it, isn't it? That's life. Channel 5, the Channel 5 ones. I mean, that was a different direction completely. It was a natural progression, I suppose, from where Channel 4 went. But those guys, they went Super Saiyan with it. Do you know what I mean? They put steroids into it and thought, right, fuck it, let's go on Instagram and let's get these guys and let's do this. And I don't know. I mean, each to their own. But when you're competing with other reality shows where people can go outside and people can do this and people can do that, you know what I mean? It just, I don't know. I think it just got very crap.
Yeah, I think we touched on that as well with some of the people we've actually joined on, the housemates have joined us, that the original Big Brother, from right at the beginning, it was very organic and it was real, like people just from different walks of life. But as we've gone on, the people that have been selected to go in the house, they're kind of, it's not the same, Like,
And
I mean, that's
also, it was. Oh, sorry. Go on, carry on,
no,
Grace.
it's okay.
Also, with Channel 5, it was like, especially towards like the later years and stuff, they were actually changing the whole like DNA of the actual show that was Big Brother in a way, and it was just becoming something. It was still Big Brother, but it was just becoming something a lot more different to what it was in the beginning.
Yeah. It was like Big Brother, but a porno. That's what it was like. It was like a
Basically.
weird, sort of like a weird porno. No disrespect to anyone, because porno, you know what I mean? They've got their market and all that. But from after my one was a mess. I don't think you understand. It was an absolute mess, right? There's people in my one who like what you see. Okay, for example, when I came off my one, I used to wake up when I came off the show, and I would still think I was on the show.
Imagine.
I wake up and I'm like, where's Ahmed? Where's Jason? I'd go out and I'd buy like 10 pairs of the same trainers. I don't know. I was doing some crazy. I was doing some messed up stuff for a little bit. Like not too messed up, you know. I wasn't, you know what I mean, filling up pillows with hair, but just for myself, I was going a bit off the beaten track. So I don't know what they were doing to people from the formula that they took from R1 because of the success it had, but it wasn't going to be good. That was it. There was people who, like, when I saw people that were in my auditions that didn't make it onto my one entering the house on later versions, I knew that there's only one way you can go from there. Do you know what I mean?
And then a few years later,
people such as yourselves weren't auditioning anymore.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? People like they weren't auditioning. Like, I'm not even sure. Like, personally speaking, I should walk into just myself, just being the a-hole I am. I only auditioned one time. I didn't even know people could audition multiple times. Like, if I hadn't got on the year that I got on, I wouldn't have come back. Do you know what I mean? I was that certain that I was going to be on the show if I felt like it. A friend of mine had been trying to get on for years. That being said, do I necessarily think that the producers would have picked me in any of the years before mine? I can't say because I can't say that with, you know what I mean? They might know if they were looking for me in BB5.
Yeah.
Because BB4 was so crap.
Yeah.
That was the truth. And they thought, he'll do. He's come in there and just done whatever he wanted in all of the auditions. And I think if he goes in there, he's going to do the same thing.
What do you think, though, as well? They have, like, they're looking for a certain individual for each series. So there's a certain type of people that they're looking for each series. So it depends on when you actually apply for it.
Yeah, psychometric testing as part of the process. It was giving us questionnaires, and I'd cottoned on pretty early into the process, just that they wanted people who were going to be jerks, isn't it? Just from the way I was behaving. So I was just picking a lot of the most extreme things without being over the top. And that was it. I kept sailing through with a lot of extreme answers and over the top extrovert behaviour.
What was your?
And then a few later.
Sorry, Aaron. Sorry.
Oh yeah, sorry. A few years later, you actually went back into Ultimate Big Brother. So how was that? Like, how did it differ from Big Brother 5 when you went into that?
It was rubbish. That's how it differed. It was rubbish. It was a bad idea, right? I'll break it down to you like this. Like, it came at the end of the longest Big Brother they'd ever had, something like 16 weeks or however many weeks it was. The production staff were fucking tired. Right? The casts were tired. Everybody just wanted to go home. Right?
Like, even launch night was on the same night of the final as well.
Exactly. So poor old Josie comes out after how many months of being in there with absolute bellends, right? Comes out, sees screaming fans, might see one of her family members for a brief moment just in the crowd. Hello, how you doing? Ain't seen you. And then Davina goes, go on, get back in there and meet a whole bunch of over the top personalities who all each think they should be paid the most. What would you do? Leave. Do you know what I mean? Leave. I don't need this shit.
Do you think that?
It was boring. It was boring. What they should have done was put it at Christmas time when the normal traditional Celebrity Big Brother was going to be on, and it would have been better. People would have been refreshed. The audience has had a moment to breathe and pause, and then look, Brian Darling's there. Ulrika Johnson.
Like, Nadia's there. You've got loads of big different characters. It was quite hard to digest as well, especially when you've just got the winner and then all of a sudden you're sending in all these old housemates.
Yeah. It was overwhelming. And I tell you, it was frigging boring. Oh my, it was so boring. Everybody's media trained. Everybody's been told by their agents, don't argue, don't do this, don't do that. Because they all want to get their magazine deal. Hey, I get it, it's business. Right? It was frigging boring. People are going to bed at 9 o'clock. On top of that, because I'm in there, and this is the truth, because I've gone in there, they've started fucking with the alcohol. So it's like, right, you can only, between the 12 of you, you can only have 3 bottles of wine and 6 cans of cider in an evening. Nikki Graham started hoarding cider. She's only little, so half a can. She was, you know what I mean? She turned into like, the local off license in the end. I'm trying to buy cider from Nikki Graham, for God's sake, right? Because we're not getting no alcohol. There's no alcohol. People are going to bed at 9 o'clock. What you're left with? Me and Nick playing Jenga. Give me a break.
You know what, though, Victor? Yeah, I all the Big Brothers over the years, yours is the one I remember the most. And sitting up at night watching you and Jason late into the night chatting away. But yours was the most explosive series, I think.
Yeah.
I'm really I'm surprised
nutters, that's what
on.
Yeah, it was a mixture. It was a mixture of nutters
naked
and
jacuzzi. No naked jacuzzi.
Everybody in there was just sort of not right or sort of damaged in some way or other. No matter how polished, how polished they presented themselves, they were all a little bit Daniel Craig as James Bond, just a bit damaged enough. If you mess with them a little, shit could get real. That's how it was with everybody. Everybody was going to stand their ground. If you think Shell's a pushover because she's little and petite and blonde and she's posh, just go and mess with her, innit? She's up for a scrap. They're all up for it. Every single person.
Yours was the one where they went in the bed sit, wasn't it? And then they came out.
Yeah. Nutcases. That you lock them away, you wind them up with hours and hours of footage of my smug face, right? My smug face, talking crap about you behind your back, sending was more alcohol than I've had some nights out as well, right? But more alcohol than I've ever seen in one place, right? Everybody's getting doled, everybody's getting dry, everyone's getting pissed. I didn't even know what a pre-drinks was before I went on Big Brother. That's the truth, right? Got in there, these two jump out. You know what I mean? They're already pissed, by the way. Right? They're already
and
pissed.
that's when you had that famous fight night.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was emotional, wasn't it? Right.
Do you still get asked about fight night all these years later? Because I remember at the time it was such a big thing, and I was probably only like about 8 back then, but I was going to school at primary school, and all of us in the class were talking about it. We knew that viewers were calling the police. It was such a big thing at the time.
For calling the police.
They were.
They were watching it live on A4 and they were calling the police.
That's crazy.
They're calling the police. Like, do you call the police when Phil Mitchell throws someone off a bridge on EastEnders? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but people knew that it was live. They were watching the live feed, so it's a completely different scenario.
Oh no, but it's still a bit silly. If they come on, the producers are there, they'll step in.
One time.
Do you think that whole situation affected the public's opinion of you when you left the house, Victor? Do you think that marred your kind of character at all?
Do you know, it's really weird. Like I suppose yes and no. People have got a perception of you before. Like if they, and this is the thing, not everybody knows that you've done reality TV. So, but if for those of you that do know that you've done reality TV and know who you are, they've already got some kind of preconception about you. And that's just how it is, because you put yourself in that position and you can't complain about it. Me, I get on with it. The one thing I will say is this, right? I don't get the weird discriminatory factor with employment where, if they find out you've done Big Brother, it's almost like some kind of career cyanide pill where, we can't have him. You know what I mean? Because you've been on reality TV. That's something that I actually fought through, and a couple of people fought through. But it's something that, unfortunately, unless you're mentally strong, and even in saying that without disrespecting anybody, unless you're prepared to walk through fire, right? It's something that can hold you back professionally. There's people who have had to change their name. There's people who've left the country over this stuff to be able to continue their life without having the stigma. I don't know why it became a stigma. It's just TV. It's just theatre. But that's what it is.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Amy.
Hi, Amy. Yeah, so we've been on this Zoom for quite some time now. So I think obviously we're gonna have, unfortunately, Amy, you've just joined us the last minute of it.
So late.
Yeah, I know.
And you missed Victor as well.
Yeah,
Amy.
you missed
Oh,
that.
Victor, I met Victor in Stratford Shopping Centre.
Yeah. So yeah, unfortunately we're gonna have to wrap up soon because obviously it's getting a little late. I know, Amy, just the wrong time.
I was having my dinner. I'm so late.
Is there anything, Amy? We'll make it up for you. So, is there anything that you would like to ask Victor quickly before we wrap up?
Yes. Victor, do you remember when you was in Top Man in Stratford Shopping Centre? I met you. In Westfield. Do you remember, Victor?
All you, Amy. All you.
It was, you know what? It was a moment that I truly treasured in my life. And I think about it. I think a tear rolls down my cheek.
Victor, you were a great housemate, and I love watching you. And you were a fantastic housemate. Trust me.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the love, man.
Yeah, I think there is some housemates you will never forget.
Yeah. No. I like before when you said, Victor, that you didn't win Big Brother. You might not have won it, but to me, you're the most memorable one.
Yeah, definitely.
I appreciate it.
You were so
Jason, all their late night
you actually
chat.
was picked to go back in again because I know they had like Nadia and Michelle in there as well in Ultimate Big Brother, but I think out of all of them, like obviously Nadia was quite big, but I think putting you in Ultimate Big Brother was one of the best choices they'd done as well.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose for that, I'm not sure what their budget was like, but I mean, I suppose I provide some bang for your buck in it. To use a phrase from across the pond, I'll provide some.
Just ask a quick question.
I'm a mercenary, baby.
Can I ask a quick question, Victor? Do you get paid at all to go in?
Did I get paid to go back in?
Yeah. Do you get paid for going in the house?
Okay, right. So on the first one, when I went in, we got paid £30 a day, loss of earnings money. That's what we call £30 a day. You know what I mean? Like so. Even if you're, no matter what you're doing, whether it's a high-powered job or if you're unemployed, it's all the same. You're getting £30 a day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But then, obviously, to do other stuff, I mean, once you come out of that, I suppose you might have some sort of profile. So then it becomes a different kind of negotiation. Some people have got agents now, right? So to go on Ultimate Big Brother, they phone you up and then you start playing hardball with that. And just to be honest, thing I'll always say, right? Every year, what used to really piss me off, right, is like every year, whenever Big Brother comes back around, I know I'm going to get a phone call from one of the runners in the booking department for one of the shows, be it like Bots, and he's going to try and talk to me like I'm some brand new boot. You know what I mean? Like I just don't be doing this. So phone you up, and because this is the thing, and I'll say this, no disrespect to other housemates, but if all housemates kind of had some kind of standards about how they operate when they do these things, then they wouldn't be getting mugged off for things. So things like when they call you to things, okay, treat me like how you treat the other people on the show. I'm trying to say treat me like you treat Gary Lineker. I'm not Gary Lineker, but don't try and treat me like I'm Kareem from the Cash and Carry either, because I'm not. Do you know what I mean? You should provide transport there and back. I'm not a diva. I'm not Mariah Carey. I don't need makeup. I don't need my own dressing room, but you should be able to provide my transport there and back and compensation for my time, because I could be doing something else instead of doing this right now. Right? You're being paid to be here, right? This is what I'd say to them, because they'd always say to me, I'll be like, all right, so not sure why you called me. You could have called my agent, or even if it was myself, right? Yeah. So okay, so what are you offering me? Oh yeah, well, you know, it's going to be the exposure might be good for you, so you know. But I said, listen, mate, right? Martin Scorsese's not going to be watching Bit on the Side and say, get me Victor Ebuwa's agent on the phone right now. Right, please. You're being paid to be here, aren't you, mate? To make this phone call. Are you doing that out of the goodness of your heart?
Exactly.
So I should be compensated. Yeah. But then other people will just come and they just come and do it. Do you know what I mean? And then these guys think they can lowball you. And that's what pisses me off about the whole thing. It's the little games in the back. Like, I'll tell you something for free, right? On Ultimate Big Brother, it almost went into meltdown now, because what happened was they sent me the wrong contract, right? We had agreed a fee for the show, and they sent me someone else's contract who was being paid more than me, right? And they told me it was a standard. They told my guy it was a standard fee, right? So I get this guy's contract. I'm like, yo, what's going on? Like, my man's getting paid this. You're taking the piss, right? You either give me more than this guy, or I'm gonna tell everybody what's going on with this dude. Boom. So I get my pound of flesh.
So did you get more money?
I do what I gotta do out here, right? But then I did. I got my money. I got my spirit. Like, come on, I'm picked up, right? So then what happened next was when we got into the house, it got, somehow the conversation, because me and Nick were talking, and something similar had happened with Nick as well. These guys were mad sloppy with these contracts, right? So me and Nick were talking about this, and Nadia walked into the room, and Nadia was just feeling some kind of way. I'm not Big Brother, like, you know. I'm not gonna badmouth anyone, but Nadia walked into the room and Nadia was looking for some kind of angle or whatever. She was pissed. Nadia was pissed, right? We're talking about the contracts, right? Nadia goes, what? Isn't everyone being paid the same? Nick's like, no. Ulrika Johnson's being paid 100 grand, right? Ulrika Johnson's being paid 100 grand, which was a lot of times more than what Nadia was being paid. Right?
Wow.
That's why that whole thing happened. That's why Nadia started going for the Ulrika Johnson, because Nadia found out different people were being paid different amounts. You know what I mean? People were being paid a hell of a lot more than, like, I'm talking about a hell of a lot more, like, to get Ulrika Johnson than what Nadia was getting. And a lot of people in there were getting 4 times and 5 times crazy amounts. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? There was crazy amounts of money, but I was all right. I just kept myself to myself.
Maybe they demand
no trouble. Yeah.
Yeah.
All these things happen. This is what happens behind the scenes, man.
So, Victor, do you think that Brian was a worthy winner of that?
Of Ultimate?
Yeah.
Well, here's what I know. It was as much as could be done, possibly be done, right, on a production level, to make somebody seem favourable, was done for Brian Dowling, for him to win. Brian Dowling is an extremely funny chap. He is. He's charming. He's got charisma. He's funny. And he's able to exist in different levels beyond just being some camp guy. You know what I mean? He's not just like he's different from perception. He's got different. It's like almost like watching an episode of Frasier with his humour. Like, you can change it up sometimes. Do you know what I mean? It's not just running about screaming and that, right? He's excellent, but obviously, knowing what I know, they knew it was moving over to Channel 5. So to give his career a little boost before he becomes the host, which he was going to be, everyone knew he was going to be the host of the next year. Everyone, like, it was everybody in the house knew he was going to win. Every single person in the house, all of the tasks. Yeah.
Wow.
That pissed off Nadia as well, because all of the tasks, like for example, like, you're getting a task, right? He was getting all the best tasks, all the best. Like old housemates come in. Who are with? Yeah, me. Like, my task is to go and break some kind of spy out of a Russian jail, right? Brian's task is to go into the room and dance the Elton John song. Yeah. You know what I mean? Come on, man.
Yeah.
Come on. You know what I mean? But I got paid, innit? That's what I was saying. Like, you know what you get paid for? I know what it is. I accept the contract. Do you know what I mean? But don't piss on me and tell me it's raining. I don't think anybody else didn't know that it was set up for him to win. The same way it was set up for Nadia to win my one. They needed Nadia to win. He needed Nadia. Like, I'm the first person in the show's history to be favourite to win in that week and be evicted. It don't make no sense, does it? An independent adjudicator has counted and tabulated the votes. How do we know?
Yeah.
Who's gonna
a lot of people used to say that, Victor, and I think with us being a massive BB fan all these years, I suppose I didn't want to believe it.
Yeah.
But,
look, put it this way. What's her name? Chantal, who won the Celebrity Big Brother version. If you did, everybody knew Chantal was going to win, because Davina McCall and everybody on every single bloody spin-off show was going, wouldn't it be amazing if Chantal won and she's not a celebrity? Everybody got mind fucked into going along with the plan.
Yeah.
The same way when Nadia came onto my show, Nadia is the first person on the show's history to not walk into the house and equal. Everybody else walks into that house. The first moment you walk in, you're all equal. Nadia walks in with a story. Nadia's already got Nadia's already got a storyline. Will they find out? Won't they find out? It's gripping. Same as Chantel. It's the same formula, the exact same formula. Chantel's got some kind of story. She's got some kind of secret. She's not like all the others. Do you know what I mean?
And I suppose
wouldn't be wonderful
could
if
be
Chantel
said,
won.
and the same could actually kind of be said for when Brian Dowling first won it, when he went in was it 2001? Because back then, when it comes to sexuality, it wasn't like how it is now.
Yeah.
So he went in, like he went in, he came out as gay, and it's like the same thing, like what happened then as well.
Yeah. Like Brian he had a ready-made story, but he was still the best housemate in there. And that you know, you can't. That's beyond question. He was the most entertaining. He was the most explosive. He was, you know what I mean. He had a story. Like he was a triple threat in there. Do you know what I mean? There was good housemates. Dorinda's quite volatile. The casts were decent, but he stood up. He stood above it. There wasn't the same
he actually did tick all the boxes on that occasion.
Yeah, like the next year, I don't know if he'd have won the next year because that house was full of competition. You had Alex, you had Adele, you had like one of them still on TV now. Alison.
I can't believe Alison
won.
So early.
Yeah, it was a shame.
Yeah,
it was a shame.
I don't know if he would have, but on ultimate, everybody knew Brian was going to win because everybody knew Brian.
You know, I even think for viewers as well, people already putting in favourite to win. On the first, I remember Josie was favourite to win, but we all knew she was going to walk out. I don't think anyone would be able to stay in a situation where you've lived in this house, you've gone out and you've come back in, but then you've got all these brand new people in a way. This has been your house where you've been living, and you've had all these people in. So we knew Josie was going to go. As soon as she went, I remember Brian was favourite to win, and it wasn't really a competition if you think about it.
No, I mean, like I said. But we all knew if you watch it back and you check these, that even everything was dull. Everything was dull. Like you wake up in the morning, you have breakfast, nothing happens for a few hours, right? Then you get a message to say sit on the sofas. You sit on the sofas, nothing happens for 45 minutes. Then they say, oh, there's a laminate in the chute. You go and get the laminate out. You read the task. The doors will shortly open for you to go to the bedroom to receive your costumes. Another 45 minutes, and then you go in the room. Your costumes are there. Then you put your costumes on. You're locked in the room for an hour. You know what I mean? By this time, you're starving, right? You're starving. And then you got to go out and start a task that's going to take another 2 or 3 hours. Everybody was bored. The production team wanted to go home. Do you know what I mean? And we're just there. We're just there living through it. It was garbage.
Well, thank you.
No wonder Josie pissed off.
We're going to have to wrap up, guys, because I think we're pretty late now. It's so nice to have you. I wish you joined us earlier on because we could have gone on and on.
Yeah, definitely.
Get me another time.
Thank you so much, Victor.
Thank you, Victor.
Nice talking to you guys, man.
Bye.
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 Bye.